Hello everybody, hope you're all doing okay. I've just popped on a minute or two early just to make sure that I get the camera and everything set up okay and that you can see me. Thank you ever so much to Lou and everybody for asking me to come and play with you again. It's been a little while, I've been a busy girl. Been doing lots of classes and online classes and in-person classes. Had about a year's worth to catch up with, so it's been a busy time, but really good, really glad to be back here again today, and just showing you today a really simple, fun, festive, sparkly wreath, just using some basic dotting techniques, folk art dotting techniques. The supplies that you'll need for this are really simple, and everything that I'm using I'm sure you can adapt with the things that you've already got in your stash. So yeah, go ahead and just improvise. Let's have a look. So let's get started. So what I've got here is, and the basis for the card, I just used C6 card, and on the top of that I've got a layer of red card and a layer of black. The circle is to draw around as a template. I actually used a punch. I think this is a woodware punch for the black square, and I used die cuts for the outer red section, which I'll just show you quickly. These are Creative Expressions dies, Lisa Horton, and I've actually used this outer one. This is the one I've used for the red piece, you can see, but the bit in the middle, if you haven't got a punch, this set also has a very similar die that would fit perfectly inside this. The reason I did use the punch for the black card is because I did this was a class that I did. I did it as an in-person class and also an online class, and it's so much quicker to punch than to put the dies through time after time. So that's why I did it, mainly for speed. But actually this little die from this set is, I think it would have been slightly prettier. So again, use what you've got. So that was the dies, and I've drawn around I punched out a circle, and I've used a 1.5 inch circle punch, and I shall show you what I do with that in a minute. And I've used 3 colours of paint, and those 3 colours are True Red, House Light Green, and a warm white. Now on top of that, oh hi David, yeah, really good, thanks, hope you're doing okay. On top of that I'll be using some glitter. Don't call me Mrs. Sparkle for nothing. So if you're going to use glitter, it's always good to have a scrap piece of paper that you can capture the extra onto and pour back into the pot. So I'll be using Glamour dust, partly because I love it and partly because I love the name. Use whatever glitter you've got. And essential is your dotting tool. We call it dotting tool in decorative painting. It's also called an embossing tool. It's got basically a ball shape on either end, and it's got a bigger one and a smaller one, so it gives you different sized dots, and that's what we'll be using. That's our main tool for today. I'll also be having a little bow, which, as you can see, goes at the top of the wreath, and I've used, dare I say it, peel off stickers, which let's bring back peel offs. And the main reason for that was because, certainly for the purpose of classes, it just makes things a little bit quicker rather than stamping, because there's so much that can go wrong with stamping, much as I love it. But that's I just thought that'd be a nice thing to do. It's and it uses up things that I've already got in my stash. So those are the things that we'll be using today. The cardstock that I've used is also Creative Expressions. I've actually used the black cardstock, any black card's good. And I've used the scarlet because that really goes well with the colour of red paint that I'm using. And I've used this really narrow little ribbon. And when I come to making the bow, when I come to using the bow, I'll show you how I made this little bow and a super quick technique with minimum waste. So I've got my paint palette ready, and I've put far too much paint on, but that's the nature of the beast, that's what we do. And to start with, I'm going to get my pencil, and we're just going to work on this to start with. Let's just draw around the circle and get that fairly central. I use a pencil, it does actually show up on the black card, you'd be surprised that this graphite shows up. So you should be able to see that. And that's our starting point. Those of you who don't know me, I have a Facebook page called Sue Humphries Designs. I'm a freelance demonstrator. I'm very lucky to be working with Creative Expressions, and have been doing so for about 18 months now. I also I'm a deco art helping artists, and that's my painting side of things. So my two loves really are the paper crafting, mixed media, and also painting, decorative painting. So I'm also an ambassador for You Can Folk It, if any of you have heard of them, which is where I've learnt most of my painting skills. So let's get started. We're going to be using a very simple technique with the dotting tool, small end of the dotting tool I use, and it's called doing a comma strokes. And the way that you do that is you just dip your dotting tool into the puddle of paint. You want to make sure that you get a good puddle of paint ready, and a comma stroke is where you basically just pop your dotting tool down and pull it out to make a shape, and it looks like a comma, funnily enough. There you go, there's your comma stroke. And what we're going to be doing for the wreath is a double comma stroke. Challenging. So what I'll be doing is where you've got the line of the wreath, the pencil line, I'll be doing really quick, really simple technique, which is you do a dot on either side of the line and you pull it into the middle, and you just work your way around. So I'm going to go straight into that. Super duper easy, super duper quick, but really good fun and very effective. So I'll start at the top. Now you can go halfway round in one direction and halfway round in the other. Hello those of you who are joining us, but personally I'm quite happy to just go round in one direction. The key for this is trying to get something that is fairly evenly spaced apart and similar sizes. But do you know what, with this, the fun thing about this is we're adding so many layers to this. Well, not so many, there's like two possibly three more layers on top of this. So even if you end up with just some pretty awful blobs, it doesn't matter, because we'll just keep going and work over them. So it's just dot, dot, pull to the middle, pull to the middle. So this is the line that I've drawn around the circle. Dot, dot, either side, pull to the middle, pull to the middle. Now these are also a great way of doing mistletoe. So I'll show you how to do a little mistletoe design at the end of this as well while that's drying. Really good fun, as you can see, super duper quick. I'm already halfway round. This is a really great thing to do if you're going to do batch card making as well, because you could do several of these with such a small amount of paint, and then as each layer is drying you can then work on the next layer or work on several cards at once, and then by the time you've got to the last card, the first one's dry, and then you can carry on with the next layer. So it's a really good use of your time as well if you've got loads of cards to make. And I think if you're doing cards for special friends and family, it's quite nice to do something that you can say is hand painted. Okay, so that's that one. Now while that's drying, and I could force dry that with a heat gun if I wanted to, this is how you could do your mistletoe. So let me just get, that's still quite wet and I was going to turn it over, so I'll use a blank piece of card. So if you were going to do mistletoe, you could just do something like this. and just build up a little branch. And then you could just use your comma strokes to connect, or not, because what you would do is you would fill in, and I'll show you how you fill in as we go along, as we do each layer of colour on the wreath. I'll show you how you would build that up on here as well. So that's your basic mistletoe. The other thing with this is that the more upright you've got your dotting tool, the better shape dot you'll get. And also with these dots is that as you do more dots, you use up the paint, and the amount of paint you've got gets less, it reduces, and so the size of the dots reduces as well. So you can get a really lovely variation in the size of the dots. Okay, so let's move that to one side. The other thing you need to have is a bit of kitchen towel. I like to have a nice one to make me smile. Clean off your dotting tool. Simple as that. You don't even need any water for this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with the red to add some red berries. So again, I'm going to use a small end of the dotting tool. If I was doing this on a bigger scale, I would use the large end of the dotting tool. But because it's such a delicate, tiny design, it's nice just to have these little small ones. And I tend to work in sort of 2s or 3s, and probably you could do between every one of these sets of leaves if you wanted to, or you could do every other. It's entirely up to you. It depends on how much red you want. But again, ever so quick. So into the puddle of paint, dot in and dot on. Dot into the paint and dot onto your project. And this is really quite random. I love a bit of random. Dot, dot, dot. You could sing a little Christmassy song if you wanted to. And that's that bit done. And then you just clean off your dotting tool again by just twisting it into a piece of kitchen towel. So that needs to dry for a little while. And while that dries, I'll just show you. When I did the class, I actually did a couple of other things. I did the little penguin and the reindeer design. These are actually part of a class that I did, but I have got demonstrations for some of these extra dotting creatures and more detailed instructions on those actually on my page. There's a little group called, I think it's called something like Fun Festive Dotting. If you join the group, you can look at the free video tutorial on how I do things like this. So if you find this fun, really quick and easy, then do go and have a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to give this a few seconds zap with my little old piece tool. Should leave my paints away really, because I don't want those to dry. Now it doesn't need to be completely dry. I just want it dry enough so that when I do the next bit, when I add my white dots and glitter, it doesn't stick to all the red. But actually, it does look quite nice, and I'll show you when I add the glitter how it looks if you add it to the red paint as well. So again, I'm going into my white paint, a nice large puddle of paint, small end of the dotting tool, and this is where you go a bit fun. And this is where, if you've got any bits that, oh, don't go into the red. If you've got a few bits that are a bit shabby, if you've got any gaps or anything, then this is where you can hide all manner of things with a few little dots of paint. Now I'm going to add, I'm going to add gold glitter, which always makes me think of is it Spandau Ballet that used to sing that song? Gold. Anyway, so pop a bit of that on. The trick with this is adding your glitter before the paint dries, because if you add it while the paint is wet, then it acts as a bit of a glue and it will stay on there. But if you leave it to dry, then it will simply fall off. So back again into there. And as I say, you need to remember just to keep adding your bling. do love a bit of bling. The spirit of Christmas. So this is all quite random, but in a way it pulls the whole design together. And also what happens is if you've gone slightly off so that you're not quite happy with the shape, by using the dots you can kind of go round enough to make the design slightly bigger or slightly smaller. And it's a way of balancing out the shape as well. So if you're not completely happy with it, the dots are, they'll save you. Dotting will save you. That's my quote for the week. I've actually been doing quite a lot of painting myself with, I've got some classes and things coming up, and you do have to practice these things. It's a bit like riding a bike. You don't forget how to do it, but you're just a bit more stable when you do it more often. Okay, so there you go. So I'm going to have a little look at that and think, well, I would like to add just a few more. It's not quite enough bling for me, so I'm going to go round and just add a few bits and pieces, just so it balances up the design a bit more on the outside. And then I'll do the same again on the inside. And then that is pretty much the basis of the wreath already done. How quick was that? Couple more. And hopefully you can see what I mean about the dots getting smaller as you use up the paint. And I just love that because it gives you such a little delicate look. There we are. So that's that sorted for now. Clean off my dotting tool so that I don't end up dropping that on something else and ruining another project. So this is the gold Glamour dust. I'm just going to take the lid off and pop that back into the pot. This has lasted me for years, this stuff. I often see a little sparkle of this on my husband's face. Gets everywhere. If you really don't like dry glitter, if it's your nemesis, use Stickles or something else instead. So I'll show you what the other things that you could use. If you've got something like a Stickles or Dovecraft, I got that from Hobbycraft. Stickles, I love these. These are really great. If you don't like using powdery glitter, then they're just as good. But a bit like with the dots, they are going to stay wet for quite a while because there's quite a lot of paint in that little area. So you do need to leave those to dry for a little while. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I made the bow. Sorry if that's teaching you to suck eggs, but that's all part of what I did for this class. When I'm doing a little bow like this, I tend to leave the ribbon on the reel because I find there's less waste there. And so what I do is I just take a couple of loops, just create a couple of loops, and then out of control ribbon there, and then I just wrap the left loop over and under and through the right one, because I swap them over, and then all I do is very gently tweak the ribbon. So you want to get hold of the loops and very gently pull that until you're really happy with the shape and the size. Now, because this is quite a small project, I want quite a small bow. So once I'm happy with the size of that, you need a sharp pair of scissors. And then you want to just come in pointing towards the centre of the bow, and these need a clean, I've got all sorts of glue on these, and try and get a similar balance on the other side, and that's your bow done. You can still alter that at this stage as well. So that is how I did the bow. Right. I'll just quickly look at these for a second just to show you a bit more about these. So as I say, I've got the free demonstration on my page, but the way that I've created this look is I've used something called Snowtex. So it's a deco art product which is fantastic for creating a snow effect. If you haven't got this, then you could just use gesso. Gesso is a really nice way of getting, this is what I've done on here as well. So it's super, super quick and easy to use. I'll just show you. You do need a palette knife for that. Get my little palette knife. I've got a little Diddy palette knife here. Isn't that cute? This is a water-based product as well, so if it starts to dry out, I'll just give it a spritz of water. In fact, I do that anyway because I just find that it helps it adhere. And just take a tiny amount. And this you can use on all your pine cones and all those things that you want to give that snowy look to. And I love its crunchiness. So this is what I did on the penguin thing here, and I also did it on the frame with the reindeer. Just pop that down, pop the excess in. That's how I got my little snowy texture. And then what I did was, again, I drew around the circle so I knew how far in to go. And then you can see when you layer these things up, you only need to do outside of them. So by drawing around the circle, it just gives you a guideline to work to. So let's put that away. Always put your lids back on things. It just, it really extends the life of all your products with anything. And I do tend to look for products that are water-based because I find that they're more durable. They just last a bit longer. And because you can give them a squirt of water before you put the lids on, it helps keep the moisture in. Because I've had products in the past where you've gone to use them again and they're either gone mouldy. If you use your finger, some of them go a bit funny, or they've dried so hard, and because they're not water based you can't reactivate them. So that's where we are with that. So what I would do now is get one of my cards, and say this is an A6 card. Lay this up. And then on the back of here, what I would tend to do is wait till that's dry, and then I would go in with double-sided tape and then a glue stick. That's how I always do it. Let's see if we can do that without ruining everything. So a bit of double-sided tape. This is what I do in all my classes. I always use double-sided tape and a glue stick. Because that way, the glue stick on top of the double-sided tape, oops, sorry to knock the camera, it just gives it a bit of wiggle room. It means if you need to pull it up, you can pull it up really quickly without it ripping the card underneath. But that's only going to work for a few seconds. If you leave it for longer than a few seconds, then you're still going to rip the card. And then use a good old pokey tool to get the edge of that up. We struggle with this on TV, don't we all? TV demonstrator's biggest fear. Double-sided tape. Get it away. I would also normally put a piece in the middle as well, but I don't want to bore you with all that. So where's my glue stick? And I just use any glue stick. Any glue stick I've got, because it is really only for the purpose of giving you that few seconds of being able to pull it up if you need to. Make sure your card opens the right way. And this doesn't look like to me like it's got a way up, so any way up is fine. If you want to, you can get a ruler and you can measure, make sure it's straight. So what you could do is use your something like this and just see how straight that is. But I'm a wonky person, I don't do all of that. Right, and then I will use a little bit of Cosmic Shimmer glue. I think that's one of the best glues in the business. And pop my little bow down there. And then all we need to do then is work out where you want to put your sticker. So let's have a look. I've lost my sticker. Probably pushed it over here somewhere. And there's so many of these peel-offs. What about you? There it is. I've got this one. I know one of the reasons I used the circle size that I did was because it just about meant that these two words could peel off and fit there in the middle. And if you didn't want that, you could use something like this and just pop it at the bottom. So it's up to you how you do it. So I'm going to use this one. I think it's quite nice. So if you're into that clean and simple design look, it's quite nice to have lots of white space on your card. And actually that would probably make this stand out on the mantelpiece, or you know, there's bits of string we have across the walls and things on the Christmas cards if you're lucky enough to have any friends. Or just keep sending yourself Christmas cards every year, why not? Remind yourself of the designs that you liked. Some of my ladies that come to my classes, so they never send the cards that they make in the classes because they can't bear to part with them. Right, so that's it. That is pretty much the end of that. So what I will do is just quickly show you again. Oh, I just wanted to show you this as well. This is another class that I've had going on my page as well, which was Christmas Mittens, which is a really fun class. And this is using things like floating techniques, which are another really good technique used in decorative painting, and really bring these things to life. So the mistletoe, if you wanted to do the mistletoe, it's a similar thing again. So you get your dotting tool. Dotting tool's gone. My dotting tool's run away. Grab another dotting tool. There you go. And you could add so I can show you if I've got a much bigger dotting tool here. So if you were using a much bigger dotting tool, then this is what you would do. You can see the difference in size? So there's no reason why you shouldn't go large. Go big or go home. Don't do that. Do nice dots. One dot at a time makes it much neater. But then you can use the smaller end of the dotting tool and connect them with your vantage tool. Here's the smaller one. So you can combine different size dotting tools as well. So this is how you would connect various things. You just add another comma stroke and connect them. And this looks pretty rough at the minute, but when you start adding the white berries, it makes a world of difference. And I'll show you that. I'll dry that and then show you the other side. Thank you, Sue. It is really pretty, isn't it? I don't know if you could you actually see the bling on there? Could you see the sparkle? Because like that, to me, that makes all the difference. So here's your mini mistletoe, and if you just go in with a couple of dots of white, because that hides the gap as well. You don't even need to connect them. So that's how you would do your little bit of mistletoe. And then if you just put a little ribbon on the top of that, so you could make that into, again, if you could do that like a circle size, do that sort of size, and then have your bow at the top, and that'd be a lovely little thing. Right, I'm going to show you one more technique for your dotting to do a little bit. So on here, when I did this class, I showed people how to use a brush, liner brush and a round brush to do this. But you can do this technique again with the dotting tool. So I'll just quickly show you how to do that. Oh, thanks, Sue. I'm glad you could see the bling. Yeah, it's really nice to use up your glitter, isn't it? I know that we've got eco-friendly glitter now, but if you already own glitter that isn't environmentally friendly, you know, it's not going to help the planet to throw it away, is it? So use things up, I guess. I don't know. And then when you have to buy new stuff, then maybe get the stuff that is a bit more environmentally friendly. So, right, I was going to show you how to do a little branch. So if you just did a few dots, I love dotting, it's just so much fun. And then just connect them. And where the connection doesn't reach, just reload your dotting tool, because it just means you've run out of paint. Or you haven't put enough on, because like me, you're maybe not dipping correctly into the puddle. Okay, so that would be some sort of branch. And then what you could do is, there's two ways of doing it. You can either add a dot and pull it out. And if you keep pulling it out, that gives that sort of foliage effect. So I'll do that for a few and you can see what I mean. Again, it doesn't look particularly good on its own, but when you build it up, as with a lot of these projects that we do, it's all about the layers, isn't it? So you can just work on something like this until you're happy with it. Don't worry about the actual branch itself, because you're going to cover that up. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is to do it slightly neater and just do your comma strokes coming out. So if I just extend that branch a bit, you can see a bit more about what I mean. So you could do this all around the edge of your card if you wanted to. And this also looks fabulous on envelopes as well. It's a really nice way to decorate your envelopes. Yeah, Noreen, they are. They're just a ball tool. But what you have to look out for, like this one, this is more of an embossing tool for shaping flowers and things. It's significantly bigger. So depending on the project that you're doing and the sort of stuff that I do, I want the smaller dotting tools because I want to be able to get those fine graduated dots. Right, so you can go from the middle out, or on the other side I'll show you, you can go from the outside in. So there's lots of ways of doing this to create different effects depending on the look that you want. I quite like that rough look, you know, like you get with fir branches. You can also make it look a bit like holly by just pulling out a certain number. And it's just kind of scraping it to give you that shape. And as you can see, I'm doing it on the dots that I've already done because the paint's still wet, so you've got that time to manipulate it. I'll do one more in here. And the way to make the branches bigger is just to do a second dot of paint. So and just extend it. And then once you've got your branches to the stage where you're happy with them, then you can come in with your berries again. And you could use the large end of the dotting tool for this to give you a bit more impact. And again, if you had something that you weren't happy with, that's how you'd cover it up. Okay, so you can see the difference layer 2 has already made. If I now dry that, again, this would only be touch dry. If I pushed my finger into those dots, I'd get paint on my finger. But it's dry enough so that when I do the next layer, if I pour the glitter on, it's not going to stick to everything. Now the other thing that you can do is you can mix your colours. If you wanted, where you've done that light, you've done that layer of green, and this is where you end up getting a slightly more maybe look of an ivy or something like that. You can come in and, so what I've done there is I've mixed a bit of the green and a bit of the white, and I've got a lighter green there, and then you can actually come in on top. You can create a little bit more depth to these branches just by coming in. And now the problem that I'd have here is that I haven't used enough paint. Can you see that paint is almost non-existent compared to this big puddle here? So you'd need to mix up enough to give you a puddle, and that way when you go in you've got enough paint. But hopefully this gives you an idea, doesn't it? If I just do this side, and also don't be too precious about it if one colour goes over the other. You know, these branches can be a bit wild looking, can't they, with some of the foliage that you have in them. Because again, you've got this layer, and of course if I just dry that off quickly, get my scrap of paper ready again. And this time I'm going to use the white glitter. Move those out of the way. Come in with my small end of my dotting tool again. Now I'm going to use white this time, not red. Sometimes when you're talking and doing, you're not thinking and doing. So there we go. Now again, anything that you didn't like, any gaps, any dodgy circles or berries, this is where, oh, not colour, this is where you do the big cover up. And if I pour some white glue, white glitter on there, da, 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 da. Give it a good old flick. So can you see that? So you can go from short to longer. You can go from a single colour to multiple colours, or instead of going over the top of the colour that you've already done, you could add extra branches, extra foliage in the lighter colour, because that's always really lovely as well. So really it's about adding the layers. If that was, imagine that if that was a circle of a square of card, and you did that in the corners and just had your stamped sentiment in the middle, maybe stamped in white or in gold embossing powder, you know, how lovely would that look? And then if you just popped a bow in the middle of it, it's really pretty, isn't it? Okay, right, so I hope you don't feel shortchanged with that. It's a really quick demo. I've got masses on at the moment. I'm doing stuff for the Creative Expressions catalogue, and also preparing. I'm actually back on TV. I've been off for several months because I've been teaching a lot, and I'm going back onto Create and Craft in December. So I hope you liked that. So just to recap on what we did, we had I took you through the shapes, how I got these shapes in the black card and the ruby cardstock, punched and die cut, and I showed you the dies that we used. I showed you how to draw around the 1.5 inch circle so that you could get, sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. Yeah, so you really could get a lovely Christmas tree using that. And actually on the Fokit website they've got something similar, because these comma strokes using dotting tools, when you get confident doing your dotting, you can then go on and use your brushes and do the comma strokes with your round brushes, and then you can do all sorts of things. And I can show you very quickly a comma stroke that you would do, so it would be on a bigger scale. But this is how I got into painting. It's only because I started off with the dotting. That is exactly how I did it. So imagine if you were loading up your brush, and it's the loading of the brush that's quite important. So once you've got a nice load of paint on your brush, and this brush is probably not the best brush to use, then to do a comma stroke with a brush rather than a dotting tool, it is very much a case of push down and pull up. And if you do that with lots and lots of, terrible brush to use, I'm really not giving myself any hope here. And keep reloading. My hand's shaking as well. Right, just relax. Shoulders back. And then if you keep doing that over and over again, this is how you would create your Christmas tree. So bear with me. I've got a terrible brush and I've got the shakes. I haven't even had coffee today. And when I turn this round, hopefully you'll get an idea of a comma stroke Christmas tree. So imagine if you did that, layers and layers of that. One more, I'll do one more layer. And try and bring this to a point so you can see what I mean. So this is a comma stroke Christmas tree. And this effect where you're blending the colours is called tipping the brush. But imagine if you did that and did it in the, I mean what you would do is you would have basically a template. This is what they do in the Folk It kit, they show you. You've got your template, you do what I've done, so you turn it around, you work from the bottom and you come up, and then once you've got your final one, if your point's not great, you would just, I'm sure we've all got those little metal stars, stick a star on the top and that makes a lovely Christmas tree design. So that's that. Back to this. So what we did here was I showed you about these bits and pieces. I showed you how to make the bow. I showed you how to do the layering. So we did the comma strokes, which showed you how to do the wreath following the line. Once we'd done that wreath, just a basic outline with the green, we then did some berries in the red, and once we got that dry enough so that the glitter didn't stick, we added the white, put the glitter on, and that's how you got your bling. So that's it from me today. As I say, I've got these free tutorials on my page, Suze Humphreys Designs. You just need to join the group. There's no questions or anything, you just request to join and you can see how I've done these other demonstrations. Oh, thank you, Laura. And yeah, so thank you ever so much for having me. Thank you to Lou and the team. They work so hard trying to make sure that you get lots of different people come in showing you different things. So this was a super quick demo and I really hope you enjoy it. And if you wanted to have a go at dotting and then maybe carry on to brush strokes, I think you'd absolutely love it. So many thanks, and I hope to be with you again soon. Bye for now.